It's Saturday, November the 1, 2025. Well, I've got my equipment dipped and I've got the boxes back here in the shop. They always do a really nice job dipping this. There's not much to say about it, but I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday about different wood finishes for beekeeping equipment. And, I've been using dipped equipment for the entire 10 years I've been beekeeping. Not to say all my equipment's been dipped, but I have had dipped equipment for the whole time. And I can say that over that 10 years, the equipment, it changes color. It does gray over, but the equipment is nearly as good as the day it was built. I'll show you this cover. This could be the first or second round of these covers that I built. And so they were wax dipped. They looked beautiful like this at one point. The wax does kind of just disappear over time in the sun, but the penetration of the wax in the wood is what really protects it. The surface is kind of aesthetic. It doesn't last, and it really doesn't give you the bulk of the protection. But I suppose for the first quite some time, especially on a flat cover, it'll shed the rain, and you can see on the bottom where you still see that yellow color. I can still feel some of the wax on there. So it's the sun and the rain, I think, is what does it. And the UV, I suppose, which would be the sun. Okay. On my way back, this is not bee related, etc., but you see this little machine on my channel all the time. On the way back from the dipper, I caught the tractor dealership open and I stopped in to get a couple things. I got some hydraulic oil. It's a hydrostatic drive, so I want to make sure I didn't have a spare jug of hydrostatic oil, and I want to make sure that never goes down. And also, I don't know if other manufacturers do this, but I think this is genius. So I picked up this. Okay, it's just a little box. This is a BX series filter kit, and you just go in there and you, if you know the part number of the kit you need, or you just ask the guy, they just give you this kit. Well, they don't give it to you, they make you give them money. No, I don't want to overstate it, but you don't need to look up part number after part number. So what I've got here is I've got, I think this is the air filter in here. So I can put a new air filter in my tractor. Just a nice little air filter element. And then there's a hydraulic. This is a hydraulic filter and engine oil filter, I believe. It doesn't state on here, but you can tell when you take them off the engine. And then there's two fuel strainers on that tractor, so they put those in there too. And I've never costed out what this kit costs compared to buying the parts individually. I don't know if they give you a deal. I kind of don't think they do, but it's just very convenient, especially if you kind of remember that number, note that number down somewhere, and that's the kit for your tractor. And it's just that easy. You just have to buy that, add oil, and Bob's your uncle. But down to business here. I just brought one cover in to show you. That's the nicely newly wax dipped cover. Those brands really show up nicely once they're wax dipped. And so then what we have is we have the cover, or the insulated box, and then the cover goes on that. I made them just with a little bit of slack, They fit really nice, perfectly sized. And so that's what my insulated box will look like on the hive. A little upper entrance there in the front. So that's that. But there's a couple more steps yet. I keep saying, well, there's one more step. Well, there's at least 2 more steps before installation. So this box is meant to fit this polystyrene box, and it does so perfectly. Yep, it's just absolutely ideal for that. Problem is I don't have any of these boxes in use yet, but that's my plan. So what I have is I have these boxes, and so what we have, and because I'm running 2-way pallets, one of the sides, the center side here, has to be flush. I can't just center the bigger cover over the box because it overhangs here, and that's the next box. So it has to be flush. And then when I do that, I have a problem here. There's a gap right there, and it probably would be similar front and back. I can center it front and back. I don't know if I'm going to, but I have to decide, because it really only covers 3/8. So what I need to do is I need to cut some more wood, and I wanted to do this after dipping because it's really a stopgap, and I need to put a little shim right in here. I have to be careful to do half and half because this is going to determine left and right on the box. Now, I could do both sides, I suppose, right? But you know what, thinking of that, I should just do both sides, and then it doesn't relegate them to left or right. I'll figure that out. This depth is inconsistent is what it is. So it's 3/8 to 1/2 inch here, because the groove is a little bit sloppy, so it can vary. So anyway, I need to cut a piece, figure 1.25 inches wide to put in here, and I'm going to add 1/4 inch to that because that's 1.5 inches. And guess what else is 1.5 inches? A 2x4, and I got a whole stack of 2x4s sitting right there. So I need to cut that to this length, and then turn it and rip it to, I'll probably rip it to 1/2 inch. I don't know. I might have to make each one to fit or something. It's tough when things are application specific like that. So anyway, that's the deal with those. I'm just going to tack. I might put just 3 staples in that to hold it nice and flat, and then once that's done, then the cavity gets filled. Sorry for such a long video that you're probably already you're still watching, but that was what was entailed to make these. And I saw a comment. There was someone, his comment wasn't clear, so I'm not really sure what he was talking about, but I'm going to guess what he was talking about. He said, don't need to make top thicker than side, or something like that. So what I'm going to assume that he's talking about is he doesn't think, or she doesn't think, that you need more insulation over top of the hive, over top of the cluster, than you need on the side. And they may be right. They may be right. However, my intention here is to make very sure that the water vapor that colony is expelling, and it's going to rise and hit the underside of this cover. I want to make darn sure that doesn't freeze on this cover. I've talked to a lot of people who winter in my area outdoors. How much insulation do you use? And I've gotten responses anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of polystyrene insulation. So I compromised and said 3. So that's what it is. And I did talk at length in my last video about that, about how you're trying to devise a passive climate control system with many environmental variables. You've got cluster size variables. You know, a smaller cluster is going to create less water vapor than a large cluster. Colder temperatures, which you're not going to predict how cold the winter is going to be. Colder temperatures are going to necessitate them eating more feed, which means they're going to expel more water vapor. So you've got more water vapor problems. So your ventilation and your insulation needs to be balanced between the cluster and the environment outside. Problem is, those are variable. You can't predict those. You can't rely on them, and often you can't predict them. So kind of best case scenario is to go overkill, right? Put in a margin, more insulation than you think you need. So if you think you need 2 inches, yeah, putting 3 is not going to hurt. Keeping the water vapor from freezing, condensing and freezing. It'll condense on this cover, but I don't want it to freeze. So to keep that from freezing onto this cover is far more important than keeping it freezing from the walls of the hive. If that water vapor condenses on the wall and freezes to that wall, that's not an issue, because the bees generally aren't against the wall. They're going to have a cluster that's inside the box like this. So that water vapor can hit the walls and freeze and not cause a big problem for the bees. If it freezes overhead, then on a warm day it's going to warm up. That'll melt and drip on the bees, and that's certain death for them. So that's my thinking. You know, I'm not saying the commenter was wrong. I don't know where they winter. Maybe they winter in Yukon or Northwest Territories or Alaska or Florida. I don't know. I have no idea where the person winters their bees. So having said that, I need to make these shims, and then I need to cut up I'm going to use the word styrofoam because it actually is styrofoam. Styrofoam is a brand name. So it is styrofoam. It's polystyrene is the product, and styrofoam is the brand name. All right, let's get to this. Okay. So I cut 32 of these, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to cut 64 so I can put one on each side, just so I don't end up with left and right. I think that's going to really bite me in the butt. And by design, I made them a little too long, so I'll have to trim them again. But that's kind of what we're looking at. We're going to put that in right there. My box is 16 5/8 wide, so that'll be right here. That'll be right there. So that's really what I need to cover, but this 7/8 is going to sit on the box. So that's why I need that wide there. This one I don't really need wide, but you know, again, just so I don't have to make left and right, and respect that in the field. So again, I'm going to cut these a little bit shorter, and try to get them in there. I'm thinking I might have to, the wax is kind of sitting up in the corner. I might have to scrape that just a little to get that in there. I want it to be fairly tight in there. Okay, so I just have to cut them shorter. That's a chisel, that's a beater chisel. Beater chisels get no respect at all. Okay, let's just cut these a little shorter. It drops right in, nice and snug. I think I could go just a hair shorter yet. Yeah, that'll work just fine. I'm going to put 2 staples in that. Okay, I've got a 3/4 inch staple in there. And we'll just make sure that's going nowhere. Now, I know some of you might be thinking that this crazy person just paid somebody to wax dip these and now he's scraping the wax off. Well, don't forget what I said about wax coating. It's not the surface wax that does the heavy lifting here. It's the wax that impregnates into the wood. So I'm not really scraping anything away that's going to be of any value, particularly because this is inside. It's not going to be exposed to the elements. Okay, so that's 1 down, 31 to go. It's Sunday, November the 2, 2025. And I think I'm going to finish this project today. Boy, it's taken a long time. I worked a long time yesterday cutting up the polystyrene, fitting it into the boxes. So what I've got at this point is, well, yesterday I worked on these shims. So I put a shim on each side. I put a shim on the back because I'll likely flush the front with the box, so it'll protrude over the back a bit. And then I had to stitch together quite a bit of the poly so I didn't waste it. It's very expensive, so I cut poly and stitched it together and cut it to size and whatnot. And some of these are really snug. I was going for snug, but some of them are extra snug. And that's okay. These are never coming out. And so that's one of the 1.5 inch pieces. And what I've got left is just right. So that's a good solid inch, a tiny bit more. So then what that results in is put the second piece in, and I suppose if a guy wanted to, you could maybe get that out of there, but there's no point. I don't think that needs to be secured in there. I may be proven wrong over time. However, it's not going to be secured. And then my new cover fits over that with a little gap because I can tell that it's not rubbing on the styrofoam, and it is styrofoam. So that is the finished product of my project. So you can see a little entrance there, and that's what's going to sit on those hives. So that's one, and 31 to go. I've got the lids outside. I should probably set these on the pallet with the lids so the wind doesn't catch that polystyrene and take it away. I think I'm going to drive a screw through here too, just to hold these lids nice and snug for the winter. I'll probably have to do a 2.5-inch screw, because this is almost 1.5 inch, 1 5/8. So I want to go, yeah, probably 2.5-inch screw. I'll just go right through, kind of at the center here. And of course that doesn't prevent me from accessing the hive in the spring, because this will then be one unit, which makes sense. I won't need this lid separate until next fall for the poly boxes that I hopefully will be using by then. Then I'll have to bring them in, cut a feed hole for next fall. But right now I only have 6 of those. So anything that doesn't need to be cut, I won't cut, and it can stay there. It can stay just like that. Now, I might be having to make 16 more of these next year. I've got polystyrene left over to the side, so I'll have to save that. And I might be making 16 more of these. So, because I'm wintering 32, I'd like to winter 48 is my goal, to winter 48 outdoors. That's 3 yards. That's 3 yards of 16. I find a yard of 16 is very manageable. I used to run yards twice that big. And that takes a long time for me, old guy, and one person to manage that. So, all right, so I'm going to just be fitting this top piece of polystyrene. It's not going to be interesting. I'm not going to video this because it's just, sometimes I have to run it through the saw to trim it. These boxes, I want it to be snug, and the boxes can be, a 1/16 this way or that. So some of them I trim. And that's it for those. And the next you see of these will be on the hives. I hope to be putting these on the hives this afternoon, because it's getting cold and windy out there, and I need to get some of my work done. Thanks for watching. Okay, look at this, long pants and a jacket. I was racing against time, and I lost that race. We had I don't know if you can see in the distance, there's some blue sky. It was nice and sunny here. It's been really windy all day, but I wanted to get out here when it was sunny. Not only has it clouded up, but I'm sure I just felt a couple of raindrops. So I gotta do this. Now this hive top feeder, this is not a way I'm gonna go. I don't know if I want to run foamies under these new covers. If my cover was something that would absorb moisture, I definitely would not run the foamy, but it's not, that wax is not going to really absorb moisture. I hope I don't have to take time and start the smoker. So I don't know if the foamy would give me an advantage with sealing up the hive. My gut says don't run the foamies. And these, you can tell from the build, there's a lot of material in these, so they're heavy. Okay. So again, I'm going to flush up the front and that side. And yeah, the bees are all over me. Holy smoke. They're not crazy about being messed with in these temperatures. I don't know if it's 6 or 9 degrees maybe. That's super cold. But it's not good bee working weather for sure. Get this one right. These two clusters aren't huge. Not bad. We'll see how they make out. Flush with the front. There's no gap under there. And these are heavy enough that I'm not real worried about them as far as losing them in the wind or anything. So the regular covers, I'm gonna need those. I'll have to just put them on a pallet here. Oh look, a pallet. This pail looks like there's a bunch of syrup in it. That one's empty. Yeah, that one's not empty. It's done anyway. They are done with that pail. Colonies look good. I'd love to dig down in there, but it's not a good day for that. Sometimes they build some comb and my shim isn't very thick on these, so it sticks up. Okay. Okay, that's it. I gotta move these yet. There's two there and one there. I need to move over to this quad here. But I need to do that on a cold day, so there's just I don't have to, but you know, they're easier to move when they're kind of tucked up in the box. Just pick the box up and away you go. Right now they're getting a bit excited. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. The weight of these things, they're not going anywhere. They don't need any bricks, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go around, since the wind is blowing the pails off, I'm just going to go around and put the feed plugs in, and I'm going to have to take the pails back to the honey house, wash them up before winter storage. So the wind is blowing my tripod over, so I'm going to close the video off here. This isn't very interesting. It's just watching me walk around. So thanks for watching the saga of the insulated hive tops. I'm very pleased with the way they turned out. I'm going to tally up the cost for you so you know. They're pretty expensive. Thanks for watching. It's Monday, November the 3, 2025. It's a lovely sunny day. It's only 6°C out here, and it is another breezy day. Now, This yard is nicely sheltered, so it's not real windy in here. This is one of my favorite things about this yard. It's a beautiful little yard, great place to have a yard, and I'm thankful for it. So today, look at, there's a few honeybees even out now. But today I'm going to collect all these pails, and I brought my new insulated covers with me. I'm going to swap those out on this whole yard. So this yard will be prepared for winter, save for two things. I haven't put the front styrofoam panel on there yet, and I have yet to decide what I'm going to use for a mouse guard. I've got a 3-inch entrance now, 3-inch by 3/4, and I know that's big enough for a pretty good rodent to get in there, pretty good size rodent. So I don't know, put in the comments what do you think I should do. I've got some ideas, but I'm not really settled on. It has to be fairly effective and it has to be easy to implement, and it has to be cost effective. So just suggest what you think is the right way to go in that category. Now, I'm going to put my bee jacket on again because, like I say, that with the warm sun, these bees are starting to fly. When I take the lids off and take the foamies off, they kind of tie into me. I got stung quite a few times the other day doing this. So I want to also remind you this week, Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, is November 11th. And so I just want to remind you to remember. And, don't forget where our freedoms to keep bees come from. There's a lot of regimes in the world that wouldn't allow us to do what we do and live the way we live. Freedom is never free. It's borrowed from those who purchased it from us many years ago, and it's defended against those who will gang up and try to take it away from us today. And there are plenty of them. Don't make any mistake. So, get to work here. Thanks for watching. I'll put this on so you can hear me. I love this foxhound sting stopper, I think they call it, jacket. It's lightweight. Now, I'm a really big guy, and I think this is a 4X jacket, and I probably could have gone with a 3. Oh, it might be a 3. It might be a 5X. I don't know. I tried to order big because it coming across the line, it cost me a lot of money. I didn't want to get one that's too small. I thought if it's too big, that's a little better. But I was going to say, the irony of this jacket is it's ventilated, so it's nice and cool, and yet I don't usually wear it when the weather's warm. I wear it when the weather is cool and the bees are getting cranky and going to get after me. So I don't really need a fully ventilated jacket in that case. I don't need to do it up real tight, although in the cold weather, when the bees crawl, they'll crawl into nooks and crannies. Okay, this is one of those that's got the zipper open front. You can undo the front. I don't use that often, but it's nice when you get a bee in your bonnet. You can undo that and generally coax her to fly out. Okay, so I got to take the pails off, stack them up here, and then the covers are in the truck there. So we'll start at the other end. Seems like there's been a lot more rain here. Now, this yard, I put a third pail on this yard, and some of them are empty and some are not. I made an observation yesterday. It was cool and windy and not sunny when I was pulling pails. I see some of these have bees in the hole, but not on top of the cover. And my observation was, see, that one's right full. Come on. You need to try to save them, you know. You need to go. You need to go. Was the wooden boxes that I took the pails off of, there were no bees up in the hole under the pail. But the polystyrene boxes I took the pails off of, there was almost without exception bees right up on top of the box under the pail. So that leads me to conclude that there definitely is a difference between clustering in the polystyrene boxes, that they were staying much warmer than the wooden boxes. Of course, I would expect to see that, so, you know, it could be confirmation bias. But it was a stark and consistent contrast. There's a lot of syrup here yet. I sometimes bring out all the equipment, set them up like this, and then start doing the work, because if I put them on as I bring them out, then I'm starting to work up the bees. You know, I could be making them fly. That just makes my job a little bit harder. So bring them all out, and then it doesn't take as long to put them on. Plus, I take the pails off. Sometimes takes a few minutes for the bees to contract down the hole. I tell you, the weight of these things is nothing to trifle with. There's a lot of material. I'm very pleased the way they turned out, though. And screwing that lid on the top was really the right choice so far. Next spring, when I forget my screwdriver and I need the lid off, I won't think it was the right choice at all. Oh, this is very small. Yeah, it's not going to make it. The other yard, I put the lids back on top just to preserve the queen marking, queen source and year. And these are all 25 queens, but there's, I think, about 3 different sources here. This was the mean hive this summer, so hopefully they've gotten over it. I think they were mean before I requeened them, and they've got a homegrown queen now. My homegrown queens are nice. Some of these not very big, but too late to do anything about that now. Oh, this one's lively. Well, that's half of them. I'm still alive. Okay, that's very strange. This one's dead. They ate all of the pollen patty I gave them. This is one of those Italian buckfast queens. Garbage queens, those things. Oh, smokes, that's heavy too. Holy cow. I'll have to take that long side of polystyrene off and put it on the pallet mate there. But then I don't have a screwdriver with me. That queen probably, I was gonna say that queen probably died, but if the queen died, I wouldn't have expected them to be brooding. And in my experience, they don't eat the patty if they're not brooding. So they cleaned up it's 2 pounds of patty they cleaned up that I gave them 6 weeks ago, maybe 7. But I was kind of late getting the patties on. I hope these outdoor bees do okay. It's a very different system than I've used in the past. I hope all my bees do okay, indoor and outdoor. Those 6 framers that I pushed down, you saw me push those down, and it was just such a horrendous and traumatic thing. Now they've shrunk right down. So I don't know what to think of that. I'm not as concerned with indoors, outdoor, because I've done that. I've done indoor a lot. I haven't done outdoor very much. Oh boy, that's a strong one. That's my homegrown strong colony. Okay. Well, oh, one more. One extra insulated cover. Okay. It's never done though, is it? Now I have to address that one over there. Get some insulation on that box. Yeah, I thought I had a nice set of 16 here. No such thing. Okay, I gotta take those pails back. I have to dump them into the tote. I'll add a bit of Pro Health to that. It'll keep the syrup fresh all winter. It'll keep it from fermenting for sure. And then I can use it in the spring. Okay, I'm going home now. Thanks for watching. It's Wednesday, November the 5th, 2025. And I am in the midst of playing everybody's favorite game, Wash the Feed Pails. Yeah, not my favorite thing in the world, but it's not really that bad, except I usually get all wet doing it. Thanks for this little thing. Yeah, not very many pails this year. Didn't have that many colonies. And I think it wouldn't be quite as bad if this wasn't my wintering building. And that is the primary reason for me trying to winter outdoors. So I'm still putting bees in here this year, and they're literally going to sit right here. And the second big reason I can't wash pails, later on, can't procrastinate, which, I love to procrastinate. I always say don't put off for tomorrow what you can leave till the next day. Is the fact that I don't have underground water service in here. It's surface. And at this stage of the game, the season, is my water line starting to freeze up. We had some below freezing temperature last night, and I had to run the water this morning for a few minutes to get it to full pressure. Uh, Fortunately, it wasn't completely froze up, but it's too long a run to put something like a heat tape on it. That would be a lot of heat tape. It would be 100 feet of heat tape, pretty costly. I'd rather put that money into trenching, and I can trench. I have my little backhoe, as you've seen. I could trench underground water service. The challenge is simply something I can't get through my head. Is you can't just trench from one building to the next. You have to the water service has to enter in up through basically up through the floor, because it has to be protected from freezing. So if you dig a trench beside a building, now you have to somehow get from that trench from, it should be 6 feet down in this part of the world to keep from freezing. And that should go from 6 feet down up like that, up into the building, right? And I don't know how to do that. I think it would entail, first of all, cutting a hole in the floor in this building. It's not that big a deal. You rent a concrete saw, you cut a big hole in the floor. But in the house, it's a little different. There's a crawl space, so it's only 30 some inches deep. And you can't really, get in there with anything tall or long or anything to dig down through the floor. It's not a concrete floor, so there's not cutting involved. So I need to work that out before I could, entertain the idea of trenching water line in here, which I really want to do, because that's a big problem. Is running the water line across the ground. Crosses the driveway, so I have to deal with that. I actually put a pipe in the driveway this year, and I've been driving across that pipe. So anyway, what I am thankful for is my extra large 3 basin sink here. These basins are so big that I don't even fill them with water. If I'm going to hold water in them, I'll put a tote. There's a tote in this one. You can barely see it here. And that I fill with, holds a lot of water anyway, but I fill that with water, put some bleach in there for rinsing the pails. And what I've been doing is I've washed my little pails so far. I use my little pressure washer here with my, what do they call it? A dirt blaster nozzle. It's a 0-degree nozzle that goes in a circle. So I can pressure wash the screen. If they're propolize the screen at all, I can pressurize that. I can pressure wash that. And I can also, these get awful dirty sitting upside down on the hives for, a couple of months. And so I can pressure wash the bottom and the little spaces in near the lid there. So it makes a really nice job. Inside, the pressure washer doesn't do much good in there. You can't, like, you could just wash one small area. So it's just a sprayer. It's just a garden sprayer with with hot water. And so I just kind of rinse it out, make sure there's no sugar residue, syrup residue, and then I'll douse it in this tote with bleach water, and I'll fill that pail right up with bleach water. And then you can see on the side here, I have a number of them in this bay. They're full of water. And so they've sat there all night with bleach water, and I can see through the drain holes that they are sparkly clean inside now. There's no, you get that black mold in there. Now, that's not as big a deal with the small pails, but I have these large pails here also. So you can see I deck up the pails onto a pallet. There's a pallet here behind me with for the big pails. So those are about 1 gallon. These are 2.5 gallons. So I'd like to do the same thing with those, but that takes a lot more water, a lot more bleach water. So I don't know. I could just put a tablespoon of bleach in there and fill it with water when I'm done. That would work. I don't know if a tablespoon is I don't know what the proportions are for effective bleaching of stuff. I don't bleach things. Well, I bleach things, but I'm not familiar with the ratios. So that's what's going on here. Nothing too exciting, just washing pails. And then that little job is done. I can squirrel these away in the shed for the winter and be done with that. And then this bay, as stated, this bay becomes bee storage. I'll have 2 pallets plus in here. So this is sort of what it's going to look like on the floor. I've got my pump over here, which I want to keep in this building because I don't want it to freeze. And I've got an old pool filter and stuff, so there's water in that. So I want to keep it in a warm building. This building's not very warm, but it's not freezing. So this is kind of what that's going to look like. There'll be a chep. It'll be pushed back against that. And then there's going to be another chep here in front of it. So I'll get all of the nukes, I think, on 2 cheps. But there will be a third. There will be a third here somewhere. I could probably put it beside, save myself some space, put the 2 cheps side by side there, put the third there. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I change it every year. Anyway, it just becomes bee storage is the whole point. And they'll sit there for the winter. It's nice though that I can still access this there. The overhead door is right on this end. I can still access it. I have my cabinet there right now. My honey is stored right there. So I've got access to the building at least for storage, if nothing else. Indoor storage in the winter is a real premium. Heated indoor storage is even more of a premium. I only have 2 heated buildings. I have my wood shop and I have the honey house. So anything that needs to be in out of the cold is either in the house with me or in the wood shop or in the honey house. So I like to get as much stuff in the honey house as possible because the wood shop becomes very congested as well with stuff that just won't fit anywhere else. Okay, I'm avoiding this. I don't care for this job, but I got to get at it. And it's not too bad. I got 36 of these big pails to wash, and that's it. I've got a few honey pails I want to rinse out, and then I need to get some things in the truck. I'm going to Winnipeg tomorrow to the packer, and a couple deliveries and errands, etc., etc. So anyway, this is not exciting. It's just rinsing out pails, etc. So we'll catch up with you later. Thanks for watching. It's Friday, November 7th, 2025. And we got our first snow last evening. That's pretty good. The 6th of November for the first snow. There are not many years we don't have snow for Halloween. There's something about Halloween in Manitoba. All Halloween costumes are designed to fit over a winter jacket because the little kids get pretty cold out there. And trick or treating. So there's a few things need to be done here. My equipment is starting to freeze to the ground, so I really need to do something about that. Just put it away. I mean, it could sit there, but if I come in here in the spring or in the winter even with the tractor and whatnot, it'll be buried under the snow, and then you drive over it, you wreck things. I need to still get those 3 hives over here onto this set of 4. But I don't want to do it today. It's -7, so probably, it should be okay. But the sun is so hot and bright that kind of encourages the bees to fly. I think I'm going to put that off again. And there's a north breeze here, and is it ever cold? I've also got to consolidate some of the cheps here with the 6 framers. before I can take them in. And again, I can do that the day I take them in, but it's just one more thing to do. So I've just been working in the honey house, getting things cleaned up and sorted out, prepared for winter. I might be able to actually store my tractor in there this year, which would be really nice. Either in there, or I can get the wood shop clear enough to get the tractor in there. The poor little guy sits outside a lot, and that's not good. I don't like that. It just takes the years off of the machine pretty fast. I can see it's fading and whatnot now. But anyway, I just thought I'd bring you out here on a Friday, show you the winter wonderland that will no doubt get worse for the next 4-5 months. So beekeeping is done. Beekeeping is done. So as you can see, maybe you can see some of these. It's so bright I can't even see the screen. There's no polystyrene on the front, so I need to put the polystyrene on the front. But the reason I haven't is that, well, procrastination, but besides that, I want to put the mouse guards on before I do that. I hadn't decided what to do for mouse guards, but I have now, and so I'll show you and explain kind of how I decided that, what to use for mouse guards this year. I was outside a bit longer than I had anticipated, and I'm pretty cold, especially because I didn't take any gloves with me or a hat. I got my hood though, because I got to put that up. So just a couple of things I want to show you in the shop here before I go. Got the new saw stop brake, so that will go on there, and I'll show you what I decided to do for a mouse guard. This is an example of, I often say that every beekeeper needs a mentor. I don't care how long you've been keeping bees, you need a mentor, and maybe more than one. I have a few. And I've been keeping bees for 10 years. I've been wintering indoors well, I've wintered outdoors twice in that 10 years. So I'm certainly not an outdoor wintering expert. And what I want to kind of relate is, I've been holding novice sessions for our association over the last 3 years. We meet once a month, first Tuesday of the month we meet on Zoom, and we just talk about basically the next 60 days of management. It's geared toward newer beekeepers who need that assistance. We do have a mentoring program in the association, so we can uh, connect experienced beekeepers with newer beekeepers. So that's really helpful for a lot of people. But having that group conversation is always good. So in that novice session that we have, I always implore experienced beekeepers to attend if they can, because I'm not the authority. I'm not going to run that novice session and pretend that I know everything, right? Because I certainly don't. I know very little, to be honest, and especially about some topics. Some topics that are very important to hobby beekeepers, because I'm not a hobbyist, so that kind of changes things a little bit. And I'm also not wintering outdoors as a rule, so I'm learning that too. So what I wanted to say about that is, even though I've been beekeeping for 10 years, there was a beekeeper on there who's been keeping for only a few years now. And I brought up the topic. I said, I want to hear what you guys are using for mouse guards. And right away, this guy piped up and he said, I'm using a 1/2 inch hardware cloth for my mouse guards. And that's 1/2 inch hardware cloth right there. Can't see it very well, but that's 1/2 inch hardware cloth. Now he's doing a little differently than what I'm going to implement, but really what I wanted to know was, is 1/2 inch hardware cloth effective against mouse intrusion? I'll put, and he said that it's worked well for him. He hasn't had any mouse problems. I thought that was a good example of someone who's been keeping bees for 10 years. I'm the president of the association. I'm the host of the novice session and whatnot, and I need help, right? So use the community around you. Even if you've been keeping bees a long time and you're kind of waffling on something, ask around, because there's probably somebody who's tried it and they can save you. You know, I can learn from his experience instead of just doing it myself and finding out it doesn't work. So what I did was, because my entrance opening with my entrance reducer, my entrance opening is 3 inches. And that 3 inches is dictated by the width of my instant vap oxalic acid vaporizer. Fits in there just perfectly. So what I did was I cut 3-inch wide and 3-inch long pieces of 1/2-inch hardware cloth, and I cut a little L shape. So I'm going to screw that to the front of the box, and it'll sit right down. So the entrance will be here. The entrance is 3/4 of an inch high. Um, and that's going to give actually less than a 1/2 an inch high for the little mouse to not be able to get through. And this stuff, I don't think the mice will chew this stuff. It'll just sit on there, and the bees will be able to come and go. Uh, I don't think they come and go on the bottom entrance that much. The top entrance they do. So anyway, I sat here and I cut 31 of those, because that's how many I have this year. And fortunately, I had some scraps. I did a project a few years ago using it, and then I put it up on a high shelf here, and I found it, brought it down, and made my mouse guards out of it. So all I need is a washer and a 3/4 inch screw and my screw gun, and I can put that right on there. Then I'll put the front panel on. I've made the front panels a little different than the backs and the sides. I've beveled them. So I've come up, that's about 3 inches. It's the size of my saw will cut. And I just beveled that. About half of it, that's about 1 inch thick now out of the 2-inch overall. And really, that's just for me when I'm kind of inspecting at the hives and checking them in the winter and whatnot. I can see the entrance a little better than have this 2 inches of polystyrene over top of the entrance. I can't see anything in there. So I'm hoping that this will help. It's still 1 inch out, so my mouse guard is going to be kind of in behind it like this, and I don't know how well that's going to allow me to see things, but I give it a shot, and we'll see if that helps out at all. It's all stopgap, because my polystyrene box, there's one right there, will be the box of choice in the long run. It's just I got to take time to buy those. They're pretty expensive, but I think they're going to work quite well. Thanks for watching. Take care, and remember,